In the digital world, we're facing a real crisis of trust. I mean, think about it. Your ideal customer is just bombarded every single day with thousands of messages. Each one is screaming that it has the answer, the solution, the magic bullet. So their default setting, it's not curiosity, it's skepticism. And the old playbook, the one that tells you to just grind for years to build a reputation, that's not just slow, it's completely broken.
And this, right here, leads us to the single greatest strategic failure in modern business, believing that a large purchase requires a large pitch. We have this idea of a massive, high-pressure sales effort where we're trying to close a super skeptical buyer. It's like a battle of attrition, right? You build a huge slide deck, you list dozens of features, and you just push and push and push, trying to overwhelm their doubt with sheer force of will. But this whole approach, it's built on a totally flawed foundation. It assumes you have to fight skepticism head-on, right at the moment of truth.
But what if that's the wrong war to fight? What if the entire battle is actually won before the pitch even begins? What if you could win it at the lowest friction point possible? A single, small yes that psychologically just pulls the buyer toward that final big purchase. Instead of waiting for time to do the work for you, you can literally engineer credibility from the ground up. This isn't about being more persuasive. It's about layering signals of trust so effectively that the sale becomes the only logical next step. It's a system for manufacturing instant expertise.
So, over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the complete blueprint for this. We'll start by digging into what I call the expertise illusion. Then, we'll reveal the authority stack blueprint, the core engine of this whole system. We'll go deep into the psychology of instant trust to see why it's so powerful, then lay out a framework for mastery you can use today. And we'll wrap up with the really profound core insight, the power of borrowed trust.
All right, let's kick things off with the expertise illusion and this weird paradox of digital authority. The paradox is this: while we all assume that building credibility is this slow, painstaking process that takes years, the reality of the digital world is that perceived authority can be engineered almost instantly. See, the illusion we've been sold is that time equals trust. The truth? Signals equal trust. Now, to understand why this is true, we have to look at how our brains actually work. We are drowning in information. I mean, completely overwhelmed. So to cope, our brains have evolved to use shortcuts, heuristics, to make decisions without getting totally paralyzed. And in a world saturated with online skepticism, the fastest, most reliable shortcut is the signal of external validation. We just don't have the time or energy to deeply investigate every single claim. So what do? We instinctively look for clues that other smart people, other trusted institutions, have already done the vetting for us. We're essentially outsourcing our trust. This isn't a flaw in our thinking, it's a feature of our cognition that authority stacking is built to leverage.
And that brings us to the mechanism itself, the authority stack blueprint. Look, this is not about getting lucky with a testimonial or a random press mention. This is about engineering an overwhelming sense of credibility through a deliberate, systematic process. Think of it like creating a dense, concentrated field of trust signals that a potential customer simply cannot ignore, especially right at that moment of decision.
So, the blueprint is built from 3 distinct but synergistic layers. The foundation is what we call borrowed authority. This is your fastest path to relevance. The next layer is proprietary authority, which establishes you as a unique thought leader. And the final locking layer is quantified proof, which makes your value absolutely undeniable. Now, on their own, each one is useful, but when you stack them together, they create this powerful, almost irresistible psychological effect.
Let's dive into that foundational layer first, borrowed authority. This is all about the strategic transfer of credibility from established, trusted external entities directly to your brand. It is, without a doubt, the fastest way to solve the customer's first and most critical question: okay, who are you and why on earth should I listen to you? Instead of trying to build trust from a dead start, you simply borrow it from organizations and people who've already spent decades building it. You're basically drafting behind their reputation.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how these elements actually work on our brains. Seeing a familiar logo, like Forbes, or a trusted industry certification right next to your unknown brand triggers an immediate cognitive shortcut. It's called the halo effect. The brain doesn't consciously analyze this, it just feels it. The positive reputation, the authority, the trust to that known entity is instantly and unconsciously transferred over to your brand. You are literally borrowing their hard-won credibility to bypass that initial wall of skepticism. But borrowing trust, that's just the beginning. The second layer, proprietary authority, is where you prove that you actually deserve to keep it. This is all about demonstrating genuine, internal expertise through unique insights, original data, or named methodologies that are exclusive to you and your brand. And this is the crucial step. It shifts the perception of your brand from simply being validated by others to becoming the validator yourself, a true thought leader who actually generates new knowledge for your industry.
And this is a perfect illustration of how you establish that intellectual high ground. It's not about just stating your opinions. It's about creating evidence that nobody else has. I mean, imagine publishing a report based on unique internal research from your own customers, or creating a named framework like the Authority Stack that solves a problem in a brand new way, presenting truly in-depth case studies with specific, non-obvious details. This kind of content proves you're not just another commentator, you're a creator of value and an originator of ideas.
The final layer of the stack locks it all in with the hard light of day, quantified proof. This is the irrefutable numerical evidence of your success. Look, vague testimonials are nice, but they're emotional appeals. Quantified proof? That's a logical weapon. It moves your claims from the world of promises into the world of results. This layer answers the brain's final, most rational question. Okay, this all sounds great, but does it actually work? And by how much?
And the difference in impact here is just staggering. A testimonial that says, "They were great to work with and very helpful," is pleasant, sure, but it's totally forgettable. A piece of quantified proof that says, "We saved $150,000 in 90 days using their system," that's hard evidence. It's specific, it's measurable, it is powerful. Numbers just cut through all the marketing fluff and provide that concrete verification that the logical part of the buyer's brain is craving. This is what turns a claim into a fact in their mind.
So, we have our 3 layers: borrowed, proprietary, and quantified. But just collecting them is only half the battle. To truly maximize their psychological impact, you have to follow a critical principle of application, the co-location rule. These powerful signals of authority can't be scattered randomly across your website or your marketing materials. They have to be concentrated together. Density is the key that unlocks their overwhelming power.
And this is exactly how it works in practice. At the highest friction points, those moments of decision, like right next to your Buy Now button, your pricing table, or a demo request form, you place all 3 layers together. Just imagine a user seeing a Forbes logo, that's borrowed, right next to a data point like, "Our clients see a 37% average uplift," that's proprietary, placed directly above a testimonial stating 150,000 saved in 90 days, that's quantified. Seeing them all at once forces a cognitive shortcut. The brain doesn't have time to analyze each one, it just registers an overwhelming pattern of proof and concludes, okay, this is a safe, expert choice.
Okay, so now let's explore the deep psychology of why this is so incredibly effective. The Authority Stack isn't just some clever marketing tactic. It's a system that's been precision engineered to leverage fundamental hardwired human behaviors that have guided our decision-making for, well, forever.
The core engine here is what psychologist Robert Cialdini famously identified as the authority principle. We are basically biologically wired with a deep-seated instinct to defer to figures we perceive as experts or authorities. It's a mental shortcut that has served our species well, right? Following the expert hunter or the knowledgeable elder saved time and reduced risk. The Authority Stack doesn't necessarily mean you are the world's foremost authority. It means you are creating the image of authority so effectively that it triggers the same compliance reflex instantly and unconsciously.
And the halo effect is the specific psychological mechanism that really ignites that first layer of borrowed authority. When a prospect sees your brand in close association with a trusted entity, like a major media outlet, a respected industry award, or a renowned expert, their positive feelings and implicit trust for that entity create a halo that just extends over to you. This is how you can bypass that slow, arduous process of building your own reputation from scratch by simply and strategically standing next to someone who already has one. Ultimately, what the stack does is fundamentally change how a customer's brain processes your offer. Without the stack, their brain defaults to this slow, skeptical cognitive filtering. This process is effortful. It requires work, independent research, and fighting against a high level of natural resistance. But with the dense, co-located proof of the Authority Stack, you provide a welcome cognitive shortcut. The process becomes fast and trusting. It doesn't demand deep research, only a quick acceptance of the verification you've laid out for them. The resistance just melts away. You've made trusting you the path of least resistance. Now, understanding the theory is one thing, but putting it into practice is another. So let's move from the why to the how with a really clear framework for mastery. This is all about translating these powerful psychological principles into an actionable plan you can implement to start engineering authority, like right now.
The path to mastery is a straightforward three-step process. First, audit your proof assets. You probably have more credibility signals than you even realize. Conduct a full inventory of every testimonial, data point, press mention, award, certification, everything you have. Then, categorize them into our 3 layers: borrowed, proprietary, and quantified. This audit immediately shows you your strengths and, more importantly, your gaps. Second, prioritize borrowed authority acquisition. This is your highest leverage first move because it's the fastest way to build that foundational trust. Actively seek out media mentions, apply for awards, or offer your product to experts for a quote. Finally, engineer density. Take your best assets from all 3 layers and strategically place them together using the co-location rule at every critical decision point on your website and in your marketing.
And that brings us to our final section, the core insight that really ties this entire system together: borrowed trust. This isn't just a tactic, it's a unifying philosophy that reframes the entire goal of modern marketing and sales from confrontation to attraction. Because the best marketing doesn't push people through a funnel. It doesn't rely on brute force or pressure or clever persuasion. It pulls them toward value. By engineering a powerful gravitational field of credibility and expertise, the ideal customer is naturally and willingly attracted to you. The sale becomes the logical, easy conclusion to a journey of trust you've guided them on, not some hard-fought battle you've won.
Ultimately, this is why authority stacking is so transformative. The system works because it correctly identifies the single biggest barrier to any conversion: buyer skepticism. And instead of trying to fight that skepticism head-on with a bigger pitch, it systematically dismantles it before it can even take root. It achieves this by strategically acquiring, layering, and displaying dense concentrations of proof. It borrows the trust of others to build its own, creating a compelling, nearly instantaneous case for expertise that justifies premium prices and makes any decision feel safe. In a world of noise, it's not about being the loudest voice in the room, it's about being the most credible.